"You're confusing me with someone else," he said, his face draining of color as he tried to pull the woman beside him away. I stood frozen in the middle of the busy plaza, staring at the ghost of my husband, the man whose funeral I had arranged last year, whose death had shattered our family. James was supposed to be dead, lost in a boating accident, yet here he was, very much alive, holding another woman's hand. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled and said, "Don't worry, I haven't told the insurance company." Then calmly added, "But tomorrow, I will." His eyes widened with panic before he turned and hurried away, the confused woman in tow. I watched them disappear into the crowd, my heart pounding in my chest, my mind reeling with the implications of what I'd just discovered. My name is Lisa, 42 years old, and until a few minutes ago, I was a widow. For the past year, I've been raising our 2 children alone, working as a high school guidance counselor and trying desperately to help my kids heal from the loss of their father. I've spent countless nights crying myself to sleep, wondering how I would manage without him, believing he had died in a tragic accident. The police report had been clear, his boat had been found splintered on the rocks near the shore of the reservoir where he often went fishing. His belongings were scattered through the wreckage, his wallet, his phone, his favorite fishing hat, but they never found his body. The currents can be unpredictable, they told me. Sometimes the victims are never recovered. I had accepted it. I had arranged a memorial service. I had helped our children, Ryan, 16, and Amy, 14, process their grief. I had filed the insurance claim, grateful for the financial security the $862,500 payout provided as we adjusted to life without him. But now, everything I thought I knew had been a lie. As I walked numbly back to my hotel, my phone buzzed with a text from my colleague at the education conference I was attending. How could I sit through a professional development dinner when my entire world had just been upended? I texted back a quick excuse and returned to my room, my mind racing. What should I do? Call the police? The insurance company? Our children? I slumped onto the bed and opened my laptop with trembling fingers. As the screen loaded, I noticed an email notification, an alert from our joint credit card account that I'd kept open after his death, unusual activity detected on your account. What else had James been hiding? I was 17 when my world first fell apart. Coming home early from school one day, I found my father with another woman in our living room. 2 months later, my parents were divorced, my mother a shell of her former self, and I was left with a promise I made to myself. I would never allow myself or my children to experience that kind of pain. When I met Taylor in Portland at 21, he seemed the perfect antidote to my fears. He was 45, established in his career as a financial advisor, charming and attentive. We married after a year of dating and moved to a comfortable neighborhood with good schools when I became pregnant with Ryan. Our early years together had been genuinely happy. There were signs, looking back, that I should have questioned: James's occasional unexplained absences, strange phone calls that would end abruptly when I entered the room, the gradual emotional distance that grew between us over the years. But I trusted him. Even when our marriage hit rough patches, I never imagined he could be capable of such elaborate deception. The night before his accident, James had been unusually affectionate. He made dinner for the family, a rare occurrence, and suggested we plan a vacation for the following summer. "Life's too short," he'd said. "We need to make more memories together." The next morning, he kissed me and told me he loved me before heading out for a day of fishing. It was the last time I saw him, until today, 12 months later. After his disappearance, I discovered how little I truly knew about our finances. James had separate accounts I wasn't aware of, investments I didn't understand, and debts I never knew existed. The life insurance policy had been my salvation, a $862,500 payout that allowed me to clear our debt, put money aside for the children's college funds, and maintain some semblance of financial stability. Now I wondered if it had been part of his plan all along. In the weeks after the accident, there had been moments when I questioned the official story: a rental car charge on our credit card statement dated 2 days after his disappearance, a mutual friend who thought he spotted James at a gas station, the fact that his passport was never found among his belongings. Each time, I dismissed these inconsistencies as grief playing tricks on my mind. How wrong I had been. Development. The credit card alert led me down a rabbit hole of discovery. James had used our old joint car to book a hotel room just 3 blocks from where I was staying for my conference. With shaking hands, I called the bank's fraud department to gather information. Yes, the card has been active for approximately 3 months, the representative confirmed. There have been charges primarily in this city, but also in nearby areas. 3 months. He'd been using this card for 3 months, and I hadn't noticed. I logged into the account to review the charges, restaurant bills for 2, jewelry store purchases, tickets to shows. He hadn't just been surviving, he'd been living a comfortable, even lavish life, while I worked extra hours to support our children. As I scrolled through the charges, a notification popped up on my phone, a reminder for James's life insurance policy anniversary. The cruel irony made me laugh bitterly. Tomorrow marked exactly 1 year since the policy had paid out. Was he planning to disappear again, this time with his new girlfriend, before anyone could discover his deception? I needed irrefutable proof. I found a private investigator with good reviews and called immediately. I need surveillance on someone, I explained, my voice steadier than I expected. I have reason to believe my supposedly deceased husband is alive and staying at a hotel. The investigator, a man named Mark, didn't seem fazed by my bizarre request. He started that night, and at 11:23 p.m., my phone buzzed with a message, target located entering hotel with female companion. Sending photos now. The images appeared on my screen moments later. There was no doubt it was James, his arm around a blonde woman I'd never seen before. They were laughing as they entered the hotel lobby, carefree and untroubled by the lives they'd destroyed. Something hardened inside me. James hadn't just faked his death, he'd stolen a year of my life, traumatized our children, and committed federal fraud in the process. By morning, Mark had compiled a dossier on James's movements. He'd tracked him to a rented apartment, discovered he was using the name Matthew Green, and confirmed he'd been working at a small investment firm for the past 6 months. "What do you want to do with this information?" Mark asked when we met for coffee. "Go to the police?" "Not yet. I need to understand why he did this first, and I need to secure evidence that will hold up legally. I need to confront him directly," I decided, surprising myself with my certainty. Somewhere public, with witnesses and surveillance cameras. The leverage was simple, I hadn't told anyone about seeing him, not the insurance company, not the authorities, not even our children. As far as James knew, I was still processing the shock of our encounter, giving him time to disappear again. I spent the day formulating my approach. Mark's surveillance confirmed that James and his girlfriend had dinner reservations at an upscale restaurant downtown. It would be the perfect setting for our confrontation. I dressed carefully in a black dress James had always loved and made my way to the restaurant. My heart hammered in my chest as I spotted them through the window, laughing over glasses of wine. "Mind if I join you?" I asked pleasantly. James's face went ashen. "Lisa," he stammered. "What are you doing, alive?" I finished for him. "I could ask you the same question." The blonde woman looked between us, confusion evident on her face. "Matthew, who is this?" "Matthew?" I raised an eyebrow. "Is that what you're calling yourself now, James?" "You need to leave," James hissed, standing up abruptly. "You're making a scene." "Oh, I haven't even started making a scene," I replied calmly, taking the empty seat at their table. "Please, introduce me to your friend." "I'm Carol." "And you are?" "Lisa Harrison." James's wife, or widow, according to the death certificate. Carol's eyes widened. "What?" "Matthew, what is she talking about?" "She's confused." "Let's go." "I'm not confused, James, but I understand why Carol might be," I turned to her. "Did he tell you he was divorced, or did he create a whole new backstory when he faked his death and abandoned his family?" Carol pulled away from James's grasp. "Is this true?" "It's complicated," he finally said. "Allow me to uncomplicate it," I offered. 1 year ago, my husband faked his death in a boating accident. Our 2 teenage children spent months in therapy dealing with their grief. I buried an empty casket while the insurance company paid out $862,500 in life insurance benefits. And apparently, while we were mourning, he was building a new life with you under a new name. Carol stood up, shaking her head in disbelief. You're married? With children? You told me you'd never been married before. Carol, please, James pleaded. I can explain everything. But Carol was already backing away. Stay away from me, you pathological liar. She turned to me. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. As Carol rushed out, James's face contorted with rage. Are you happy now? You've ruined everything. No, James, I replied evenly. You did that all on your own. After Carol's exit, James slumped back into his chair. Look, I know this looks bad. Bad. I laughed without humor. It's insurance fraud, James. It's abandonment. It's years in federal prison. His expression shifted to a calculated look I recognized from our marriage. What do you want, Lisa? Money? I can split what's left of the insurance payout with you. What's left? I repeated incredulously. You mean the money you weren't entitled to in the first place? The money meant to support your children after your death. The kids are practically grown. They don't need. Don't, I cut him off, my voice deadly quiet. Don't you dare pretend to know what they need. You forfeited that right when you chose to disappear. Why? I finally asked. Was our life together so unbearable that you had to fake your own death to escape it? It wasn't about you or the kids, he said. I got into some financial trouble. Bad investments, people who wanted their money back. So instead of facing consequences, you decided to disappear and leave us to deal with the emotional fallout? I was protecting you, he insisted. These weren't the kind of people who take no for an answer. If I had stayed, you could have been in danger. And the insurance money? Was that also for our protection? He looked away. I needed a fresh start. The plan was to establish myself, then reach out to you and the kids once it was safe. You expect me to believe that? You were building a life with another woman. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark, all recorded. Audio and video clear. Do you want me to remain on standby? James had no idea that Mark was capturing our entire conversation with professional-grade surveillance equipment. His admission of insurance fraud and faking his death was now preserved as evidence. I stood up, smoothing my dress. I need to get back to my hotel. That's it? We're not going to resolve this. Oh, I wouldn't say that, I replied. I am going to resolve this, but not in the way you're hoping. As I turned to leave, James grabbed my wrist. What are you planning to do? I gently removed his hand and leaned down to whisper in his ear. When I said I'd tell the insurance company tomorrow, I meant it. But they won't be the only ones getting a call. Back in my hotel room, I met with Mark to review the evidence. The audio and video were crisp, clearly capturing James's admission of faking his death and his knowledge of the insurance payout. I contacted a lawyer specialized in insurance fraud cases. Based on what you've told me, your husband committed multiple felonies, the attorney, Olivia Wright, explained. He's looking at significant prison time and financial penalties. Mark's investigation revealed more. Before his disappearance, James had indeed made some questionable investments, primarily with a developer who was later indicted for running a Ponzi scheme. He wasn't dealing with violent criminals, but he was deeply implicated in the scheme, possibly as a knowing participant. When the developer was arrested, James might have feared he'd be next. The pieces fell into place. James hadn't faked his death to protect us, he'd done it to escape potential securities fraud charges. The insurance money was his safety net, and we were just collateral damage in his escape plan. That evening, I received another text from Mark. He's making moves. Just purchased a one-way ticket to Mexico, leaving tomorrow morning. With newfound clarity, I picked up my phone and made 3 calls in succession, to the insurance company's fraud division, to the FBI's white-collar crime unit, and to the local police. My name is Lisa Harrison. I need to report that my husband, who was declared dead last year, is actually alive and attempting to flee the country. Turning point. They arrested James at the airport the next morning. I watched from a distance as officers approached him at the check-in counter, his face contorting in shock as they handcuffed him and read him his rights. I expected to feel triumphant, but what washed over me instead was a profound sadness for what could have been, for the life we'd built and the trust he'd shattered. The days that followed were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. The insurance company launched an immediate investigation, freezing the remaining funds. The FBI expanded their inquiry to include James's professional activities before his disappearance. Through it all, I had to prepare for the hardest conversation of my life, telling Ryan and Amy that their father wasn't dead after all. I flew home, arranging for a family therapist, Dr. Morris, to be present when I broke the news. The children sensed something was wrong the moment I walked through the door. "Mom, what happened at the conference?" Ryan asked, his perceptive eyes studying my face. "Let's sit down," I said, gesturing to the living room where Dr. Morris was waiting. "There's something important I need to tell you both." "Are you sick?" Amy blurted, her eyes immediately filling with tears. "No, honey, I'm fine," I assured her. "This is about your father." I took a deep breath. "I saw him at the conference. He's alive." The silence that followed was deafening. Amy's hand went limp in mine. Ryan's face drained of color. I explained everything as gently as I could, the chance encounter, the investigation, James's new identity, and finally, his arrest. Throughout my explanation, Amy's eyes grew wider, her breathing more rapid, while Ryan's expression hardened. "Dad is alive?" Amy repeated, her voice hollow with disbelief. "How could he do this to us? He left us on purpose?" Ryan's voice cracked. "He let us think he was dead. He watched us suffer." "I don't understand all of his reasons," I said truthfully. "He claimed he was in some kind of trouble and thought he was protecting us." "That's bullshit." Ryan exploded, jumping to his feet. "He wasn't protecting anyone but himself. Do you know how many nights I stayed up wondering if I could have saved him if I'd been there? If I'd gone fishing with him that day?" His words pierced my heart. I hadn't known that Ryan had been carrying that burden. "Where is he now?" Amy asked through her tears. "He's in custody. He's facing charges for insurance fraud and other things." "He's going to prison?" Her voice trembled. "Most likely, yes." Amy broke down then, her body shaking with sobs. "Did he ever love us? Was everything a lie?" I pulled her into my arms. "I believe he did love you, both of you. I think he made terrible choices, but his love for you was real." Ryan remained standing, his hands clenched into fists. "I want to see him," he said suddenly. "Ryan, I don't think that's." "I want to look him in the eye and ask him why," he insisted. "I want to hear it from him." Dr. Morris spoke gently. "That's a natural reaction, Ryan. And it might be possible, eventually. But right now, it might be better to process your immediate feelings first." "My feelings?" Ryan laughed bitterly. "I hate him. That's my feeling." He stormed out of the room, slamming his bedroom door. Amy continued to cry in my arms, her questions coming between sobs. Why didn't he call us? Why didn't he miss us? Did he ever think about us at all? Dr. Morris stayed with us for hours, helping Amy calm down and checking on Ryan, who refused to open his door. Before she left, she gave me her private number. "Call me anytime." The next few weeks are going to be extremely difficult. They're experiencing a complex form of grief, mourning the father they thought they knew while processing the betrayal of the man he actually is. After she left, I stood outside Ryan's door, listening to the muffled sounds of his rage, things being thrown, broken. I wanted to go to him, but I knew he needed space. Amy had finally fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from crying. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. "They found evidence that your husband was planning to leave the country permanently. Multiple offshore accounts set up under the name Matthew Green. He wasn't planning to come back." The next morning, Ryan emerged from his room with red-rimmed eyes and a determined set to his jaw. "I want to talk to the FBI," he announced over breakfast. "I want to tell them everything I remember about Dad's behavior before he disappeared. There might be things that could help their case." I was surprised by his change in attitude. "Are you sure that's what you want?" He nodded grimly. He deserves to pay for what he did to us. And I want to help make that happen. Amy, meanwhile, retreated into herself. She spent hours in her room, emerging only for meals, her usual bubbly personality subdued. I found her one night sitting on the floor of her closet, surrounded by old family photos. "Do you think he was happy here, with us?" she asked when I sat down beside her. "I think he was," I said honestly. "I think he loved our life together, but he made choices that he couldn't undo, and instead of facing them, he ran away." She traced her finger over James's face in a photo. "I keep thinking about all the things he's missed. My art show. Ryan's debate championship. Did he ever think about those things? Did he miss us at all?" The questions hung in the air between us, unanswerable. 2 weeks after James's arrest, his court-appointed attorney requested a meeting with me. I went alone, steeling myself for whatever manipulation tactics James might attempt. "Mrs. Harrison, my client would like to speak with you and your children." "Why?" "He wants to explain himself. To apologize." Barnes sighed. "He also mentioned something about financial assets you might not be aware of. Accounts that could help with the children's college expenses regardless of the outcome of his case." I considered this. "I'll think about it. But I won't make any promises about the children. That will be their decision." When I raised the possibility with Ryan and Amy, their reactions were divided. "I want to see him," Ryan said immediately. "I have things I need to say to him." Amy shook her head. "I don't want to. I can't." I called Barnes. "I'll meet with him, but I won't commit to bringing the children. And I want our family therapist present." I dressed carefully for the meeting, wanting to project strength rather than the emotional turmoil I felt inside. Dr. Morris accompanied me to the detention center. When they brought James in, I was struck by how different he looked after just 2 weeks in custody. The confident, well-groomed man I'd confronted in the restaurant was gone, replaced by someone with shadowed eyes and slumped shoulders. "Lisa," he said, his voice hoarse. "Thank you for coming." He glanced at Dr. Morris questioningly. "This is Dr. Morris, our family therapist," I explained. "She's here to support me, and to assess whether meeting with you would be beneficial for Ryan and Amy." James nodded slowly. "I understand." He took a deep breath. "I know nothing I say can undo what I've done. But I want you to know that I never intended to cause so much pain." "What did you intend, James?" "It started with the investments," he explained. "I got involved with people I shouldn't have trusted. When it all started to collapse, I panicked. I knew I was facing not just financial ruin but potential criminal charges." "So you decided that faking your death was the solution? Leaving your children to grieve you?" His eyes filled with tears. "I convinced myself it was temporary. That I'd establish a new identity, secure some resources, and then find a way to bring you and the kids into my new life once it was safe." "And Carol? Was she part of that plan?" James looked away. "That was a mistake. I was lonely. You built an entire relationship on lies," I finished for him. "Just like our marriage, apparently." "Our marriage wasn't a lie," he insisted. "What we had was real, Lisa. The good years, the life we built together, that was all real." I felt a surge of anger. What was real was Ryan blaming himself for not being there to save you. What was real was Amy crying herself to sleep for months. What was real was me trying to hold our family together while you were starting a new life. His face crumpled. "I know what I did was unforgivable. Then why are we here, James? What do you want from me?" "There's an account, in the Cayman Islands. It's under a different name, but I set it up before everything. There's about $250,000 in it. I want it to go to the kids, for college or whatever they need." I stared at him, disbelieving. More hidden money? More lies. "It was meant to be a surprise," he said weakly. "A nest egg I was building for our future." Dr. Morris spoke up. "Mr. Taylor, do you understand that offering this information now might be perceived as manipulative rather than generous?" James looked startled by her directness. I'm just trying to do the right thing. The right thing would have been not abandoning your family in the first place, I said quietly. Ryan wants to see you, I continued after a moment. Amy doesn't. I won't influence either of their decisions, but I need to know, what would you say to them? What could you possibly say that would help rather than hurt them more? James seemed to deflate further. I don't know, he admitted. I miss them. I think about them every day. I want them to know that none of this was their fault. Will you at least tell them, I asked? That I want to see them. I nodded reluctantly. I'll tell them. But I won't pressure them. As our time came to an end, James looked at me with desperate eyes. Lisa, when this is all over, is there any chance? No, I said firmly. That part of my life is over, James. You killed it when you faked your death. Conclusion. The day Ryan went to see his father, I offered to go with him, but he insisted on going alone. This is something I need to do by myself, he said with a maturity that both impressed and saddened me. When Ryan returned, his face was unreadable. He walked straight to his room without a word. That night, I found him sitting on the back porch, staring at the stars. He cried, Ryan said as I sat beside him. Like, really cried. I've never seen Dad cry before. I asked him if he ever thought about us, if he missed us. He said every day. He said watching Amy's art show videos on social media nearly broke him, and that he was proud of my debate championship. I was startled. He watched videos of Amy's art show? Ryan nodded. He followed us online, using fake accounts. He said it was the only way he could still be part of our lives. He paused. That made me so angry, Mom. He was watching us grieve him, and he did nothing. The weird thing is, part of me still loves him. Isn't that messed up? After everything he did, there's still this part of me that remembers how he taught me to fish, and helped with my science projects, and came to every debate match. It's not messed up, I assured him. Love doesn't just disappear, even when someone hurts us deeply. It's okay to hold on to the good memories while also acknowledging the pain he caused. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom, watching as James pleaded guilty to multiple charges including insurance fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud. His legal team had negotiated a plea deal, but he still faced 8 years in federal prison and restitution payments. Ryan sat beside me, his face solemn. Amy had chosen not to attend, staying home with her aunt. Before the judge delivered the final sentence, James was permitted to address the court. He turned toward us in the gallery, his face haggard from months in detention. I never meant to cause so much pain, he said, his voice breaking. I convinced myself I was protecting my family, but the truth is, I was protecting myself. Lisa, Ryan, Amy, I know an apology isn't enough, but I am truly sorry. The judge was unmoved. Mr. Taylor, you committed a calculated fraud that caused immeasurable emotional damage to your family and significant financial damage to the insurance company. Your remorse, while noted, does not mitigate the severity of your actions. As they led James away, he looked back at us one last time. Ryan raised his hand in a small gesture, not quite a wave, but an acknowledgement. I held James's gaze steadily, neither acknowledging his apology nor expressing anger. He had chosen his path. Now we would forge ours without him. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked how I felt about the verdict. Justice was served, I said simply. Now my children and I can truly begin to heal. The insurance settlement was eventually resolved, allowing us to keep the funds used for the mortgage and children's education. The offshore account James had mentioned was located and released to a trust for Ryan and Amy's education. Ryan is now preparing for college, studying psychology with an interest in trauma and resilience. In his application essay, he wrote about how his father's betrayal had shaped his interest in understanding how humans cope with life-altering events. Amy, now 15, has become an advocate for fraud awareness at her high school, turning our family's painful experience into an opportunity to help others. Her art has taken on new depth, exploring themes of loss, deception, and recovery. As for me, I've returned to counseling students with a deeper understanding of how life can change in an instant, and how resilience can be found even in the face of unimaginable betrayal. I've started dating again, cautiously, a fellow teacher who knows our story and moves at the patient pace I need. Last month, Amy decided she was ready to visit James in prison. I went with her, watching their awkward but necessary reunion from across the visiting room. She didn't forgive him, not yet, but she asked the questions she needed to ask, and she listened to his answers. It was a start. He seems smaller, she said as we drove home. Less scary than in my head. That makes sense, I told her. He's just a man who made terrible choices, not the monster our fears can make him out to be. She nodded thoughtfully. I think I'll go again, maybe at Christmas. If that's okay. Of course it's okay. Whatever you need to heal. Ryan visits his father more regularly, every few weeks. They're rebuilding something, not the relationship they had before, but something new, grounded in truth rather than illusion. James will be in prison until the children are well into adulthood. I don't know what role he'll play in their lives then, that will be their choice, not mine. As for me, I've made peace with the fact that the life I thought I had was built on sand. The perfect family I tried so hard to create was partly an illusion, a reaction to my own childhood trauma rather than a reality. But from that collapse has emerged something stronger, more authentic. Our new family unit, Ryan, Amy, and me, has weathered the worst kind of betrayal and remained standing. We talk more openly now, express our feelings more honestly. We've learned that perfect families don't exist, but resilient ones do. Last week, I finally removed my wedding ring. I'd continued wearing it even after James's death, feeling that our marriage had ended with his life rather than by choice. Now, knowing the truth, I was ready to symbolically close that chapter. Ryan noticed immediately. Big step, Mom, he said, gesturing to my bare hand. It felt like time, I replied. He nodded. You know, I think we're going to be okay. We already are, I told him, and I meant it. James's deception nearly destroyed us, but in surviving it, we discovered strengths we never knew we had. We learned that family isn't defined by perfection or even permanence, but by the choice to love each other through the hardest of times. That's a lesson worth the pain it took to learn it.